These
That's a different
Lions,
area though,
I
because
think, are
Jameson
different. And
Williams.
I set the stage with all that pain to kind of bring to you, Devin, because you did the Lions preseason. And
Mm,
that's the last time we saw Jameson Williams, right? So
yeah.
Jamo's back. I remember watching him and before he blew up as a prospect, he was like this dude out of St. Louis. My man Levi came with him to the camp, him and his dad. It was an Under Armour camp. And I mean, he could run, but he was raw. Like he wasn't polished as a route runner. He, didn't it wasn't polished catching the ball, but you knew he had a lot of talent. He blows up, becomes a 5-star prospect, goes to Ohio State, and he's behind Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. He transfers from there, goes to Bama, and becomes the best receiver in the country that year before blowing his ACL. The Lions trade up to get him, but then he's out that most of that season, and then he has a gambling thing in the offseason. So we don't know what he's going to bring to the table. You are the closest one among us to having seen him in person during camp. What do you think is a reasonable expectation for Jameson Williams initially and throughout the season?
I don't think early he's going to be a guy that can be dependent on, and this is why he struggled mightily with catching the ball in preseason camp and all that, and it's not necessarily. I mean, I don't know what it was, more of like putting his hands in the right place. It was super weird because it's like, man, you get to this level and you would think a guy knows exactly where to put his hands, when to have his hands ready, whatever the case may be. And so when I dive into it and I was looking at it, as I'm getting ready for the games, I'm like, man, he was always open because of the speed, man. And when you're in college and you're running around, first of all, you usually play against teams, especially if you're at Alabama, Ohio State, you play against teams where your coach is a better schemer of plays than the other coach, right? Your coach is just better. And then in college, as a superior athlete, he's just faster than everybody, right? And I like his route running, but it's all based off of speed, right? And he's just faster than everybody. So a lot of his catches are not combat catches. And what I mean by combat catch, I mean, somebody's hitting you while you're catching a ball, or somebody's near you, reaching in, trying to rake the ball out. That's just not something he had to deal with a whole bunch. And then I think, okay, this guy's so talented. Why didn't he play at Ohio State? Well, what does Ohio State usually have as far as college players? Defensive backs, right? So you're playing at close enough to the level of what you're playing now, where guys are closer to you in practice, and you're not making these catches. And we got receivers if we're Ohio State. So that's why you're not going to have the opportunities, because we can't deal with you dropping balls, right? We have guys that are going to catch it, so you got to go to Bama, right? And at Bama, you're being schemed open, you're running open, you're making these plays. But then when you get to the NFL, you're back at the same scenario kind of like you were at Ohio State, where guys are close to you where you're making these catches, and he just wasn't able to get a handle on it. And so I don't think you improve doing that by not doing that, right? And so he's been out, right? He hasn't been able to work on that part of his game. Now, the one thing I will say, in the last preseason game, he called a 2-point conversion, and he kind of the last one I did, he kind of caught it with one hand, and it was a pretty good catch and all that. And obviously that's just one play. So I think they have to bring him on, slowly. I think it's going to be up to the coaching staff, because you used the first round on this guy, right? You got to make this work. I think it's up to the coaching staff to scheme him open so he can make plays comfortable the way he made plays at Alabama, right? Get him in position to make the plays that he made there. And I think the more he sees the ball caught, the more he catches balls and sees it, that natural ability will take over when it comes to the combat catches and things like that. But I think he has to get confidence back, right? Because I'm sure he's a confident guy, but there's no way you have the confidence that you need to be successful when you've dropped so many balls and everybody's writing about how you're dropping all these balls and things like that. So I think that the expectation is that he won't be a guy to depend on. He'll be a spot duty guy, right? You try to scheme him open, get him downfield, those deep crossers, things like that, and you build his confidence. And by the end of the season, you hope that he can be the guy you can definitely lean on to make all the big catches, third down, and what have you.
Here's the thing, Daniel and Devin, but I want to focus this question to Daniel first, because just watching him, I don't know him as well as I know some other guys that were recruits, but he really strikes me as a guy. How he feels is how he plays, and maybe that's a lot of players, but he is a guy with an exceptional talent, and so how he feels affecting how he plays is a problem when he knows he's going to be out what he thought was the first 6 games. And I wonder if that really contributed mightily to what we saw. Because remember, when he was at Ohio State, they were like, when he left, they weren't thinking they lost the dude who did what he wound up doing at Bama. They're like, hey, man, he just
they're like, hey, thank goodness, because we needed that scholarship anyway.
Right. They're like, hey, it is what it is. But he goes to Bama and he becomes that dude because now he can see it. Like, I'm gonna play, I'm gonna be the man, I'm gonna be the guy. And he starts playing like that. Point. So that's what I'm hoping as a fan was the case in the preseason. He knows he's not gonna play. Everybody's like, man, how could you be so? I'm not calling the man dumb, but they was like, how could you be so dumb? How you're betting when you know you're not supposed to be betting, or you didn't know you weren't supposed to be betting, you were doing that anyway. He's hearing all this. He knows he's not gonna play. I think that affected his preparation at that point in time. So I'm hoping knowing that he's gonna play is gonna bring out another level to his game.
Yeah, maybe so, but if that affected his preparation, and that leads to another like level of immaturity or a level of growth that he needs, the steps he needs to take as an athlete, right? Like, you don't want players who are affected by you don't want guys to be moody. That's what coach used to say when we were playing, right? Hey, you don't want to be one day he comes in, he only performs as he feels good. If he walks in and he's bubbly that day and he's happy and he's cracking jokes and fist bumping, now he's going to be who we expect him to be. If he comes in tomorrow and he's somber and looks like he just woke up and, okay, we're not going to get much out of him. So you don't want that. You really don't want that with your guys that you're counting on. You don't really want that in your program or your organization, period. But guys you're counting on, you don't really want that. So if he's showing signs of that affecting his mindset and his preparation, maybe has a little bit more growth to do before he actually reaches that potential. I don't want to rain on anyone's parade because I love watching him play at Bama, right? But if that's going on, then he definitely has another step or two to take as an athlete as far as his maturation process and his mental toughness. That's a big part of sports.
Sam, you said, isn't that a lot of athletes, right? And that's most athletes, I think. And that's why only 1% of us get to play at that level, right? That's part of what separates you, right? The guy that, man, he's so – how many guys have we seen like, man, he the greatest talent, basketball, football, whatever, that I've ever seen, but it's just not consistent. It's like, oh, he good sometimes, he wishy-washy, everything's going good, oh, no, it's not, oh, his girlfriend broke up with him. I don't have time for that, right? You know what I mean? And so I think that's what separates. And the word is compartmentalization. Can you compartmentalize what's going on in your life outside of your job and the thing you have to do? And like Daniel's saying, if he hasn't figured that out just yet, and that's what I'm saying, that's what you can't call on him to be the guy to depend on early, right? Because I think it'd be way too much pressure on him, and now you're gonna lose him forever, and you spent a lot of capital on him, right? And so I think that you're right. It is a lot of athletes, Sam, and that's what separates the 1%ers that play at the level that he's at.
That's what Amon St. Brown is able to do. I mean,
amazing.
when you kind of get on his bad side, when you fire him up, that makes him play better. But if he's hurt or he didn't get balls, it's not like it makes his game go down. 100%. Like, you always gonna get a certain level from Amon St. Brown. Another dude, now him I covered more closely. And his dad, you could tell how he reared him. So he had Amonra, he had Equanimous, and Osiris, right? Equanimous and Amon were both in the NFL. Osiris played at Stanford. I don't know what became of him as an athlete after that, but John Brown, hey man, he had these dudes in the weight room.
Intestinal fortitude, right. Mental toughness in its highest form.
Right. Yes. So you hope some of that kind of rubs off preparation wise, and compartmentalization, I think, is a great word have that rub off on Jamo, right? You hope.
You got to think about with Amon St. Brown. He's the counted out guy. He's too small. He ain't fast enough. He ain't really that. It's like, oh yeah, he can help. He's just a possession guy. You know what I mean? And so with all that being said, all he has done is catch balls, move the chains, do his job, play hurt, be a dog, and essentially help bring back, it's been quite some time since 1957, but bring back the Lions to a national kind of stage.